I was stuck in China for a year due to COVID. I finally made it back to Toronto. I was exhausted but happy to be back. But when I tried my keys at the front door, I found the locks had been changed. I then tried the side door only to find the same. My heart pounded as I realized something was terribly wrong.
Someone had changed your locks?
I started banging on the door. Suddenly, I saw a shadow move behind the blinds. Someone came to the window. We looked at each other. They looked just as scared as I was, and then they closed the blinds. I felt panic. Squatters had taken over my house. My heart raced with a mix of anger and disbelief.
Shouldn't have you just called the police?
I did call the police. When they came, they talked to the squatters. The squatters showed the police some papers and then left. They claimed to have a verbal lease with me and that they have mail addressed to them at this property. That was enough to give them rights to the property. The police told me it's a civil matter. The police said they can't get involved with landlord and tenant problems.
So they claimed to have a verbal lease, or was it a fake lease?
Leases can be verbal in Ontario, but they could have easily printed a fake lease off their computer.
Do you think the police didn't believe you?
The police said that they believed me, but I would have to go through the court to have these people removed. The police said if I kept calling them or bothering the squatters, then I could be accused of harassment.
It sounds like the squatters have more rights than the owner.
I think the squatters knew the laws very well, and I don't think it was their first time. I felt helpless. I couldn't do anything.
It sounds like you were caught between a rock and a hard place. What did you decide to do?
My family back in China said, just change the locks. But my paralegal told me not to. I could be charged with trespassing or harassment. She said I have to follow the rules or I would get in trouble. I could even end up in criminal court and maybe not allowed to leave Canada. This whole time, I was still paying for utilities, mortgage, taxes, insurance, and sleeping in friends' basements. It was a nightmare.
That must have been incredibly stressful. How did you manage to get through it?
The constant stress and frustration pushed me to the point of needing antidepressants just to live. I was staying in a friend's basement, and at one low point, I even considered borrowing money from friends to offer the squatters money to leave. It was a desperate situation that left me in a depression.
So, how did you eventually get them out?
It was not easy. We had to apply for an eviction order from the Landlord and Tenant Board. It took a long time. There was a huge wait. I even had to prove that I was the owner of the property and that they had no right to be there. But the squatters delayed the hearings, and when we finally had our hearing, their stories were so convincing that I was accused of being a greedy landlord trying to evict these innocent tenants just to raise the rent.
That sounds like an incredibly difficult process.
I told the adjudicator my story. I think he felt sorry for me. I told him everything, how much money this cost me and my depression. It took 7 months and I was granted an eviction. The sheriff arrived a month later to remove the squatter from my property. The process was unpleasant, but it was the only way to get my home back.
In the end, you regained possession of your property, but at what cost?
This cost me a lot of money. I don't want to think about how much. I feel like squatters have more rights than homeowners. It felt like each step forward, I was sinking deeper into despair. It's been very expensive and stressful.
How has this experience changed you?
It's messed me up. It made me look at Canada differently. The Landlord and Tenant Board deals with issues too slowly. It shouldn't take 7 months just for a hearing or another month for the eviction. I feel like it's unfair for landlords. I thought Canada had a better justice system, but it doesn't.
If you're leaving your home for an extended period of time, have someone check up on your property on a weekly basis. As Ontario housing and rental costs continue to soar, squatting can become more common. We want to hear your Toronto real estate stories. Be aware of what's really going on in Toronto real estate. Watch this next video.